Hey there, fellow travelers. So, as I was researching the Rings of Power recently for my trailer response, I came across a write up on EW.com from July 13th. And after reading this, all I can say is I have some thoughts. Uh, the title of the article is Welcome to Númenor. Get an exclusive look at the Lord of the Rings of Power. Some of you all might have already seen this article. And most of it is fine. It's just kind of like, those fluff pieces from industry gossip rags that come out before every big Hollywood blockbuster or TV show or whatever, new seasons. Most of it's just that, right? We learned a little bit about, some new photographs, like we learned a little bit about the actors and the people behind the production and everything like that. But there were two paragraphs in there that I wanted to highlight because I found them very concerning. I'm going to kind of break these down. So the first the two paragraphs kind of go together, and they're pretty far down. And here I'll see if I can find them here on my screen. We got yeah. So we got, here we go. I'll show you where they are right here. Okay, so these two paragraphs right here, beginning with "for fans worried about conflicting canon." So let me read the first part of that first paragraph. For fans worried about conflicting canon, McKay and Payne point to one of Tolkien's published letters where he wrote about wanting other minds and hands to create art in his legendarium. We feel like we're taking up the gauntlet that Tolkien himself put down, Payne adds. He gave us what we like to say are the stars in the sky that we have to connect and draw the constellation in. So Tolkien's exact quote is from the Waldman letter, which is the part of the Waldman letter is excerpted and it's the intro to the Silmarillion. The actual quote goes, "The cycle should be linked to a majestic whole and yet leave scope for other minds and hands, wielding paint and music and drama." So, sounds pretty open-ended, right? Like Tolkien seemed to have intended that other people could have kind of play around in Middle-earth, and, there's been a long history of that especially with people creating artwork. But there's also been musical adaptations, people writing fan fiction, although the Tolkien estate doesn't seem to look as kindly on that for some reason. But anyway, Tolkien seems to have at least intended that others could work in Middle Earth in some way or fashion, especially in an artistic way. Here's the thing, though. Tolkien also wrote these doozies, specifically concerning adaptations to the screen. In letter 210, which is in reference to a potential Lord of the Rings screenplay from the 50s, Tolkien says, "I fail to see why the time scheme should be deliberately contracted. I cannot see why definite time statements, contrary to the book and to probability, should be made." Given that we already know that they're going to be compressing the timeline, this just, it makes me think that this article, like I've already said, that it's a fluff piece, but it makes me think that it's more than just a fluff piece. I feel like us fans are just like, we're frogs in that pot of water where this heat is slowly being turned up on us, right? We're getting boiled, right? It's like they want to be true to what Tolkien said over here, but then when it's inconvenient, they're not true to it. And man, that's going to be a big problem. He also says this in letter 201. "The present script is rather a compression with resultant overcrowding and confusion, blurring of climaxes, and general degradation." I mean, that right there is Tolkien is speaking directly to the issue of compression of a timeline, right? I think in that context, he's speaking about Lord of the Rings, which is a much shorter period of time. But if he's talking about that in a much shorter period of time, how much more does it apply to a 1500-year time period, right? Tolkien lists the problems, right? Overcrowding, confusion, blurring of climaxes, general degradation. It's just going to make things a mess. And if you are a person who has read Tolkien, if you've read Akalabath, if you know the story of the Second Age, it's going to bother you. You're going to have to suspend disbelief. And suspending disbelief is the very thing that Tolkien said you shouldn't have to do with good fantasy. Okay? See, I believed in this show. I believed that given all the money they were going to spend, that they could make something truly amazing. But man, I am just increasingly not feeling it. I want to give it a fair shake, and I'm gonna watch the show. But I really hope I can watch the show and not just be not just be heartbroken through the whole thing. Um, it's clear that Tolkien is not a fan of those who would adapt his works to other mediums and in the process fudge the details. He's a fan of adaptations, not a fan of people who fudge the details of his works. Okay, that's the beauty of it. It's all the detail. The detail is the beauty. Um, Tolkien took such painstaking care to get the details exactly right everywhere, and that's one of the things that makes it so wonderful. So you can't walk in here and say, "Well, here Tolkien said this, so it's cool. Whatever we're doing is cool, buddy." Right? You can't walk in there and do that. It just doesn't make sense. All right, they move on, and this was just kind of funny to me. They talk about Simon Tolkien. Here's what they say. Plus, the author's grandson, novelist Simon Tolkien, also serves as a series consultant, and McKay and Payne say his contributions to the show's story and character arcs have been indispensable. In a statement, Simon Tolkien said, "I have enjoyed assisting Amazon Studios in connection with the series, and in particular providing input to J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay on matters including my grandfather's original writing." I mean, I just think this is so funny. Did they leave off the part where, he's like, "I've enjoyed doing this from my new beach house and a secret island in the middle of the Mediterranean"? Hey, we're cool with Tolkien's grandson, so we've got that going for us. Ding! Sparkle tooth action, right? Yeah, Amazon just paid him $1 bajillion. I bet he's cool with you. If this had been Christopher's statement, that would have been truly impressive. That would have been, okay, if Christopher's cool with it, I'm cool with it. All right? But this is not Christopher's statement. This is Simon Tolkien's statement. And I don't know much about Simon Tolkien. I really don't. But, that's just, at best, it's kind of meaningless. Of course, he's going to help you, right? You paid him a lot of money, and he's probably got more money at stake in it. And at worst, it's just, who is Simon Tolkien at the end of the day? What are his priorities as compared to J.R.R. Tolkien and Christopher Tolkien? I hope he tries to reflect their priorities. But just because someone is a descendant of somebody doesn't mean that they will, right? I mean, that's kind of proven by history. All right. Next up is everybody's favorite topic, diversity. Okay. And this quote comes from the actress that's playing Míriel. This is her last name is Adai Robinson. I don't have her first name in front of me right here, but yeah. So we'll just refer to her as Adai Robinson. I'm sure I'll learn all the actors' names as time goes on. So this is what she says. The diversity. This introduces what she says. The diversity of the cast has also been scrutinized. For the first time, Middle-earth will be populated by multiple actors of color, including those playing dwarves, elves, and more. It's a decision that's been key to the show's DNA from the start, and Adai Robinson says to complain about that diversity would be to go against the very spirit of the source material. Okay. The thing is, I'm not complaining about the diversity. I'm not complaining about the diversity. All right? I'm not. I'm complaining about going against what Tolkien said. Can you understand the difference there? And since we're talking about Míriel, let's talk about how Tolkien describes her in A Calabaith. This is how Tolkien describes her. Fairer than silver or ivory or pearls. Okay, that's Tolkien. That's the one description we have, a physical appearance of Míriel. Now, I will say, this could merely be a statement of her beauty in a general abstract sense. It could be. All right? But what if it's not? Right? And I think you can make a strong case that it's not, okay? Let's not even get into lineages and all of that kind of thing. All right? Adai Robinson, certainly fair in the sense of being beautiful. 100%. A very beautiful individual, okay? But there's also the sense of being fair-skinned, which usually means having a pale complexion. When you couple that with the fact that Tolkien says fairer than silver or ivory or pearls, it would seem that Tolkien is implying Míriel was in fact fair-skinned and quite beautiful. Okay? Yeah, like that doesn't really match up with the actress Adai Robinson. Now, again, I don't have a problem with diversity. The only thing I care about is that you're attuned and you're sensitive to the things that Tolkien wrote, the things that he put in the lore. If you had made Galadriel's... I'm married to a brunette, all right? Greta, you all know her, you all love her. She's amazing. She has dark hair, right? If you had made Galadriel dark-haired, I would have complained, right? Because it's very clear that she's supposed to have, like, golden blonde hair, okay? So, this is not about a diversity thing or anything like that. This is about, was this really the right choice for this role? That's it. And I don't think it was. There you go. At the end of the day, I'm all for diversity, but not at the expense of what Tolkien actually wrote. All right. So Adai Robinson goes on to say in response to this thing, right, this question of, to go against, she says to go against diversity would go against the very spirit of the source material. She goes on to say, Tolkien explores many themes, but one of them is the idea of people of different ethnicities, backgrounds, and walks of life all coming together for a common cause, she says. For me personally, as a viewer, I would have the expectation that the show would reflect the real world as well as the world as I aspire it to be. That's nice. But guess what? I and other Tolkien fans have the expectation that it will reflect what Tolkien wrote. What Tolkien wrote. Okay? There is a sense in which it should reflect the real world because it's supposed to be a mythological prehistory of our own world, but it's also Tolkien's story. He's the one that gave this to us. Okay? That's the point. All right? What Tolkien wrote. It shouldn't be about you. It shouldn't be about any of the people working on this show. It should be about what Tolkien wrote. That's it. You are servants of that. And if you don't serve that, then you're failing. Okay? The process of adapting Middle-earth deserves the same respect and attention to detail that Tolkien himself put into it. In Letter 210, the same one I quoted earlier, he says, the failure of poor films is often in the intrusion of unwarranted matter owing to not perceiving where the core of the original lies. Boom. I mean, he said it right there, okay? The failure of poor films is often in the intrusion of unwarranted matter owing to not perceiving where the core of the original lies, okay? If you're approaching this thinking the core of the original is the spirit of diversity, I think that's somewhere in there, but that's certainly not the only part of it. And did you bother to read on fairy stories? Did you bother to read his letters? Did you bother to read all these other places where he provides commentary that would have helped bring an adaptation that would have truly been worthy of Middle-earth? Amazon had that opportunity. I mean, they had so much money invested in this thing, and they have so much money to pull from. But they chose to go a different route, or at least it seems they have. Again, look, we haven't seen the show yet. All we've got is trailers. There's a new trailer that came out today from Comic-Con. Probably going to go watch it and probably do a commentary on it here shortly. But at the end of the day, they had the opportunity to achieve one of the greatest artistic feats of all time. It's possible that it still might be great, but I increasingly get the feeling that we're just going to be getting extremely expensive mediocrity. There you go. Well, hey, look, I don't like it any more than you all do. I want to see it be great, but let's talk about these things together. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's talk about it in the comments below. Gonna have a lot more talking to do as the show comes along, and we're going to be, a place to just talk about and deal with the question, what did Tolkien think? What would Tolkien think? What did he write? That's the big thing over here at the Tolkien Road. So thanks for watching this video, everybody, and I will talk at you next time. Bye-bye.